Markey.
Yep. Thank you, Madam Chair. And before I begin my questions, I want to take note of who is here serving as an expert on supposed fraud in the 8A program. I'll let his words behind me speak for themselves as to why he is unqualified to speak on this program. Even Elon Musk suspended him from Twitter for his extreme views. Mr. Rosiak's history shows he starts with a point of view, one which I find abhorrent, then spreads misinformation and conspiracy theories to support his views, and that is not journalism. For the past almost 50 years, the 8A Business Development Program has broken down historical barriers that underserved small business owners face when trying to contract with the federal government. Decades of research backed by real stories of discrimination and statistical analysis show that historical discrimination has created an unequal playing field in government contracting. It also shows that discrimination continues to this day, working against minority contractors. Yet programs like 8A are under an all-out attack from opponents within the government and outside the government who claim the programs are ripe with fraud. While it is important to root out instances of genuine fraud, these opponents aim to tear down programs that address historical discrimination. Mr. Hetler-Gaudet, how do programs like 8A program and other small business contracting programs help competition, help to ensure that in the federal contracting space that there is room that is made for access for the groups that historically had been left out?
Thank you for the question, Senator. Small businesses are, as everyone on this committee, I think, would agree, the backbone of the American economy. However, they are not the backbone of the federal contracting system, and that is because there are a handful of extraordinarily large, extraordinarily well-connected and powerful corporations who vacuum up the vast majority of federal contracting dollars. This is particularly true in the defense industry space, but it's true everywhere also. So SBA programs and, generally speaking, small business set-asides are critical to trying to unlock the sort of stranglehold that small cadre of very large companies has on federal contracting dollars. And when you expand and diversify and broaden the industrial base, you make it healthier and more resilient. And then when you have an eye toward broadening and diversifying even within the small business contracting space and trying to make sure that the playing field is level for those who might want to be in that space, you do an even better job of increasing the health and the resiliency of the industrial base.
Yeah, so Mr. Hetler-Gaudet, do you believe small disadvantaged businesses contracting programs make up the most fraud or waste in the federal government? Do you believe they make up the most within just the federal contracting space?
That's a categorical no. No, it's not even close.
Do you believe the Trump administration's actions towards 8A program are efficient or effective oversight?
I do not. I think if they cared deeply about looking into 8A or any other program, they would have an inspector general do it, because that's who should be doing it. I also think it's a little bit too convenient that the program they're targeting happens to fall into a category of a sort of ideological or political viewpoint that they disagree with.
Yeah, and they fired the best inspector general in America in January, who oversaw the SBA. They just fired him. In June, SBA announced the so-called audit of the 8A program, and this month, SBA ordered all 8A firms to submit extensive documentation within 30 days over the holidays as a part of their investigation. Oversight is important to make sure that government programs are working properly, but I'm concerned that the SBA's investigation is politically motivated. Dr. LaFountain, the GAO, provides the standards for government audits through what's known as the Yellow Book. Can you tell us how audits are done and how your office typically conducts them?
So thank you for the question. I love to talk about the Yellow Book. The Yellow Book is our nickname for the Generally Accepted Government Auditing Standards, or GAGAS. And this is a framework for conducting high-quality audits with competence, integrity, objectivity, and independence. The Yellow Book is a big book, and it covers a lot of territory. It explains the purpose of government auditing, which is to provide objective analysis and information needed to improve government performance and accountability. It includes standards for conducting audits ethically, independently, and with sound professional judgment, and other matters related to making sure we do our work in a manner that's transparent, independent, and accountable throughout our auditing process.
Yeah, thank you. So as I spoke about in my opening statement, it is ironic that we're here today to talk about waste, fraud, and abuse, and are ignoring the elephant in the room. President Trump's supercharged pay-to-play system designed to benefit his billionaire buddies and hurt small businesses. Mr. Hetler-Gaudette, as an expert in oversight, could you explain how President Trump is using the federal contracting system to reward donors and political supporters?
Sure. One especially brazen example of this, and it's been mentioned a couple of times, but I think it's worth underscoring because of how conscience-shocking it should be to everybody, is the East Wing Ballroom project. Recently, a report came out from one of our colleague organizations, Public Citizen, that scanned all of the corporations and individuals who were donating to that vanity project, and it turned out that a large number of them were big prime contractors who, on average or in aggregate, held about $280 billion worth of federal contracts. So I think there's a bit of a, clear wink, nod, pay to play, at the very least, the appearance of such a relationship there.
Yeah, and what effect do you see that pay-to-play system having on small businesses?
I think the more the already well-connected and the already powerful companies who receive contract, the more they receive, the more you crowd out and close off opportunities for smaller businesses.
And how does corruption or fraud in the 8A program compare to what the administration is doing with its big business contracting and backroom deals?
I think in terms of scale and scope, it doesn't really compare at all.
Yeah, like an elephant to a mouse, huh?
Thank you.
So, yeah, so we thank you for your great work on this, and I think you've helped to clarify what is going on here today and how we still haven't had a hearing in any one of the Republican-controlled committees on what the Trump administration is doing to instill waste, fraud, and corruption into the heart of the federal government. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And Mr. Rosiak, because your name was brought up, if you would like to respond, you may respond.
Mike, I can't see it, but if I could have a copy of that poster framed, if possible, that would be amazing. You mentioned the prospect of a president giving contracts to his friends. I think that's of concern to all of us. The mechanism to do it is one we have safeguards against. But let's say, purely hypothetically speaking, President Trump wanted to steer a contract to SpaceX or to somebody who donated a bunch of money to him. He can't do that under the competitive bidding process. He needs a mechanism to do it. So what could happen is you have a low-level SpaceX employee have his wife create a women-owned small 8A firm, and they get the sole source contract, and then they sub it out, of course, to the people that they work with closely. And it's easy for the government to do with a wink and nod or just read between the lines that this is going to wind up with SpaceX. So that's the concern here, is that procurement is like water. It follows the path of least resistance. And when you have a loophole like this, it creates all those things that nobody supports. So the other thing is, it's not that, there's a couple reasons that 8A is in the spotlight now, but one of it is the Supreme Court. Okay, so Students for Fair Admissions, the big Supreme Court dealing with race, that showed that this program is illegal. There's a court case called Ultima that has subjected 8A to an injunction right now. So we can't have a hearing about 8A and talk about, oh, Trump is against DEI, whatever, without recognizing it's literally under injunction right now. So this committee is going to have to go back and revisit the legislation, and the SBA is going to have to, as the terms of a legal settlement or a final court order, to do a rulemaking process. But right now, the government cannot treat people differently based on race. So if you have a minority set-aside program, without the minority, you're left with just a random set-aside program, which is just rife for all sorts of exploitation.
Thank you.
Madam Chair?
I appreciate
Madam Chair?
it. I'm on my 5 minutes of questioning.
Well, you gave him more time
This is
to
part of
answer
this is
than-
part of my questioning.
Oh, what, you mean I get recognized again?
You'll get recognized again, Ranking Member Markey.